Hey Valley, welcome to a G67 mini video. This is a tutorial on 1.3 ABC. We've got some problems highlighted here on absolute value. Let's take a look at this first one right here. This is the most basic of absolute value. Remember absolute values is distance from zero. So anything that's inside the absolute value bars becomes positive. So a negative 13, this is actually just 13. We need to add that to negative 7. Well, the absolute value of negative 7, everything inside there becomes positive, so that's 13 plus 7, and the total is 20. So when I evaluate that, that's worth 20. Now, I want you to watch the way I did that. I worked it just like an order of operations problems. If you want to get these correct, you want me to approve your work steps, this is the way you have to do it. I don't want you doing it in your head. All right, take a look at this next one here. These are the same numbers, but it's a little bit different now. Because now, think of these absolute value bars like parentheses. What would you do if this was in parentheses? Well, you would go inside the parentheses and do the work. So I'm going to do that. So now I've got negative 13 plus a negative 7. Well, 13 plus 7 is 20, and these are the same sign, so I'm going to keep that negative sign. So now we've got a negative 20 inside the absolute value bars. They're saying, how far is negative 20 from 0 on the number line? Well, it's 20 spaces. Again, everything becomes positive. So that becomes an absolute value of 20 as well. A little bit different process, though. All right, let's take a look at this one here. This one here is the first one that's a little bit tricky, and I'm going to have to try to write small to make this fit. I put them too close together. So we have a negative 5 times 3 plus a negative 2. Well, inside the absolute value bars, the first thing we'd have to do is do this addition. We'd have to do the multiplication here. I didn't put parentheses around it, sorry. So negative 5 times 3, this is actually a negative 15. And we have to add this negative 2. So it's 15 plus a negative 2. And I'm just going to put a little set of absolute value bars there. It's still inside the absolute value bars. One step at a time. Okay, negative 15 plus a negative 2, this is actually a negative 17, and it's still inside the absolute value bars. And then, what's the absolute value of negative 17? It is just 17. Sorry. Get that 1 in there so you can see it. It's actually 17. All right, let's take a look at this one here. It's slightly different. Same numbers, but we go inside and we take a look at it. Our natural inclination is to start right here with 5 plus 3, but we can't. We have to look and see what the order of operations is. The order of operations says we're going to have to do this first. So let's do it. Now we've got a negative 5 inside the absolute value bars, but we have 3 times a negative 2. So this is really a negative 6. So it's plus a negative 6. Okay, I'm still inside the absolute value bars. I have the same signs, a negative 5 and a negative 6. That's actually a negative 11. And it's still inside the absolute value bars. Now we're done inside the absolute value bars with all the operations. We had 2 different operations. What is the value of that? Well, it is a positive 11. Okay, here's one more. Oh boy, now we've got this guy here. Well, this really means a negative 1 times whatever we have inside the absolute value bars. So we have negative 6 minus 2 times a negative 1. But we have to do the multiplication first. So a negative 6, and now we've got, this is really plus a negative 2, right? So we really have a negative 2 times a negative 1. This is really a positive 2. So we really have a negative 6 plus 2. Because a negative times a negative will give us a positive. Okay, we still have to finish this out. All right, so we have negative 6 plus 2, so that's a negative 4. Different signs, find the difference. It still times this negative 1 out here. So the absolute value of that is 4, but we still have to multiply that times the negative 1. So a negative 4 times a negative 1 is going to equal a negative 4. You just can't do that stuff in your head, and I'm begging you to take it. Work through these problems step by step. I'm sorry these got crowded. I'm trying to keep everything to a half page to make it easier for the dot cam and for you to see what I want you to work on. There I've drawn lines to kind of separate them. Let me square this up so I give you some problems to work on. These ones here are not going to be as hard as the ones I've done, but they're a basic understanding of absolute value. Go ahead and complete these problems, and we'll see if we can't do something about your grade. Thanks.